anarchist governor, an oxymoron, or a genius leader in an ascension zone? Governor of Florida Ron DeSantis bans CBDC. Florida law shoots another hole in the N.W.O, baby. All we got to see is that I don't belong to you and you don't belong to me. Freedom, freedom, freedom. People around the world so easy to see. People everywhere just wanna be free. An anarchist governor? Am I kidding? Well, he's made a lot of extra rules and laws, but those were mostly all to protect our freedoms. Ron DeSantis bans CBDC. That's right. Florida legislature, along with the governor, banned CBDC. Florida law shoots another hole in the N.W.O. I cried a few tears, I'll admit. Okay, it was a relief to me, you know. The fact that at least one state, at least one man has had the courage. And kicking the banksters out of your mind. How are we going to kick the banksters out of your mind? How are you going to get them out? You know, before 2020, I thought the devil just controlled, religions, Bible thumpers, the Catholic Church, the prison system, and big pharma. And wars, right? Wars and governments, right? But after the lockdowns, you know, we just had to lock down for 2 weeks to slow the spread. Well, Ron DeSantis was the first governor who got to get vaccines out to all of the elderlies in the old folks' homes of Florida before any other state. However, he only ordered Johnson & Johnson shots, which still has been found, graphene dioxide has been found in it, but it's a more minimal amount. And around his birthday in September 2020, he said, Ron DeSantis said, "This is draconian, the lockdowns and the masks, and we will never do this again." Now, he's a graduate of Yale. Did he lay in a coffin and scream out all his sexual acts to his brethren in the Skull and Bones Club? Let me know if you know the answer to that question. Okay. He said, "We're never going to do this again." Around his birthday in September 2020, I was really impressed. Then since in between now and then, he's passed legislature to ban transgender and women's sports, to protect guns rights to the point where they have it's a constitutional carry state. On the other hand, in Florida, homelessness or even sleeping in your vehicle is 100% illegal, people have told me. Yet, they have inexpensive motels most places, yet those in legal boxes, who are in the legal boxes, are protected by legal state. Ron DeSantis, being the governor of Florida, using the legal state reclamation of constitutional rights, whereas places such as where I'm at here in California, they will do their best to obey the communist plot and to remove them. So, Mark Passio versus Ron DeSantis. Well, Mark Passio says government is slavery, which is mostly accurate, whereas Ron DeSantis has, used his position as the governor of Florida to maintain freedoms, to maintain the American dream of freedom. Okay, I am not a statist. Government statism is not the answer. Yet Ron DeSantis' version of Florida has consistently passed legislature to support freedom. Okay, so years ago, maybe even a decade ago now, the Santa Cruz had a drum circle that was at the farmer's market, and then it was despotized away, The police actually came by and got our names and told us if we came back, we'd get a ticket. And so they moved it to the next parking lot, kicked us out of there. They moved us to the levee that they built to keep the river back. And so for probably a year, I don't know, for a while, they had the drum circle at the levee, a year or two. And I had my work trade, so I tragically didn't hang out and jam much there, but I would a little bit. So one week sometime when I wasn't there, it turns out some guy had overdosed on heroin, a block down on the river. And the police, or the fascisti Secret Service police, rolled up on a four-wheeler and said, we had an OVD here. We got to shut down the drum circle. I surely would have gone to jail for the afternoon and, use that as a freedom to, a freedom stunt. But nobody there, being the drum circle was made out of, mostly this one guy that was elderly, disabled, and people on drugs and homeless, and sometimes well-to-do people. But, no one was there to stand up for the rights, so they shut it down. So, I believe in, harmless, respectful anarchy, but if no one's there to protect the rights, how can it work? So I feel like saying to Mark Passio and David James Rodriguez, could you reinstate my rights? I am not a statism, but yet Ron DeSantis is. I'm not a statist, but yet Ron DeSantis' Florida has consistently passed legislature to prove if the state or region gets together, they can reclaim the law for freedom. So about over a year ago, Ron DeSantis sued the Biden administration, saying it was unconstitutional to force people to wear a mask on public transportation, buses, planes, and trains, and they won. And I took the Amtrak up to the hot spring in Colorado pretty soon after I heard about that, because I didn't have to wear a mask. So, if and when you are not in community with self-protection, if you're not in an intentional community with self-protection, growing your own food on your own land, it is extremely helpful and at times necessary to have freedom lovers in the government. If you are not 100% self-contained or 100% taking care of yourself in your community, suing Biden. Also, DeSantis also made a Florida state law that the Chinese government and the Russian government and other communist governments cannot make a donation of over so many $1,000s to any university system. He went out of his way to actually make laws to attempt to prevent the New World Order and the psychic, trashy violence of communism to infect the college system. DeSantis' idea, thus, is the idea that freedom and anarchy through rules to protect freedoms, that we can have freedom and no need for violent, draconian, Nazi, dictator, evil, alien, slave kingships to control us at all. He's a governor that will pass laws that say if you are in a legal box or structure, he is going to protect your rights for them not to harm you. Now, is this idea I have here that a governor could be an anarchist a crazy, retarded idea to get views, hypocritical, or good? All people are on this planet together. Well, Ron DeSantis is a slick politician, Yale graduate, yet also a true humanitarian, mostly. Why do we need government at all? Because people are immoral. Because you don't want the violent psychopath, killer, person who's going to rape you, able to walk over and do what they want. Because people are immoral. Because they don't have the harmless non-aggression principle. They don't understand true freedom comes only from morality. Okay? Government are mostly criminals, but yet the Florida government supports morality and freedom. This is very interesting for all of you anarchists out there. Florida lawmakers, led by Ron DeSantis, have shot another hole in the N.W.O by banning CBDC. I was worried, man. I was so worried about this that I cried a few tears in response when I saw this. The fact that the state of Florida, under the governance of Ron DeSantis, is continually, for all those in the legal boxes, going to be protected. Their freedoms are going to be protected. Whereas California will continue to fall into the psychological hell of the New World Order because the vast majority of the people here, and unfortunately descending zone because of that, are obedient to the Rainmaker. Isolated pockets of California may be okay, such as San Diego, freedom lovers there, Shasta, yet far too many, like Hollywood lemmings, falling off the cliff, just obeying, and what I call the GOW, the grapes of wrath, inverted slavery culture. Be a good slave, work your ass off to prove you deserve to be here in cold water paradise. Whereas in actual legitimate tropical mainland USA paradise, Florida is ascending. Partially due, even instead of going under the ocean, which is probably the number one reason, if not the only reason why I'm not residing there already, is because I have to overcome my fear of the tidal wave and the weather weapon attacking it, which they did last September. Florida is ascending partially due to a large community of peoples who love, cherish, and maintain their freedoms and rights, even through the government, including gun owners. Ron DeSantis is growing the bifurcation, perhaps consistently, moving to maintain individual freedoms. He's pushing the gap because he's making laws to maintain Floridians' freedoms. Comparing this to the ancient planetary-wide mind control of slavery, never fail to remember, while rejecting CBDC, you must also notice, remove, and reject one by one the sick mainstream media implanted thoughts of the banksters of, for example, our endless debt to them, that we have to do whatever they say because we have an endless debt, or the idea that paying the mortgage is the point of life. Slavery is acceptable, that the point of life is to put food on the table and be a slave for your box. And replace these inverted, sick, slave-based concepts with the respectful. The fact that your soul has a blueprint and came here to share something magnificent, quite possibly, with this world. And what is that? And how are you going to do that? And share your gift. Share the gift of the present. Share your gifts of creation. And have awareness of your mental freedom as well. You see, Ron DeSantis wasn't able to do this alone. He had other people there with him, other people in the government. He had his wife, his 2 small children to help. He didn't want them to have to grow up in this sick and inverted culture they're trying to force all of the colleges and elementary schools into. So he made laws to protect his children from that insanity. You know what? If you enjoyed this and you haven't already, click subscribe and the notification bell for more, mostly little snippets or little teasers from my videos on Odyssey. And you know what? If you have the courage, create a great day, my family. I love you. Congratulations to Florida. You are free of digital slavery.